It's been a funny old summer so far, from temperatures of 37 degrees at the beginning of July to the cold, wet weather at the end of the month. Farmers in Scotland and Ireland are struggling because of the wet weather that's been experienced there, and even in the south of England we've seen precious few days strung together where the weather has been dry, sunny and warm, making haymaking particularly difficult. And we're not alone either. Europe's been experiencing a heat wave, particularly in central and eastern areas with temperatures above 40 degrees, and in Poland electricity stations have actually shut down production for several days because of the coal-fired power stations becoming too hot. So what on earth is going on? Well, a lot of it's down to sea surface temperatures. Let's go inside and I'll try and explain a little bit more. Now, if you want to know whether it's been warmer or colder than normal, there's no point just looking at a temperature chart. You need what's called a temperature anomaly chart, and this is it. This is the chart for the whole of August so far. So that's running up to the 13th of the month. Where it's redder, it tells us where it's been warmer than normal, and where it's bluer, unsurprisingly, it tells us where it's been cooler than normal. And you can see that across the British Isles, most places have been cooler than normal, particularly out towards the west. One or two eastern parts of the country have been above normal for the time of year though, so it's not a bad story everywhere. Europe's most notable though, particularly across the east, where this area of very warm air has been affecting central and eastern areas, bringing temperatures of as much as +8 degrees Celsius above normal for the time of year. And in fact, that warm water was in evidence across Europe during July too. This is the temperature anomaly for the whole of July, and you can see that warm air affecting many central and southern parts of the continent, while in the UK we saw temperatures of 1 to 2 degrees Celsius below normal for July. And as far as precipitation was concerned, that's rainfall, it's been dry across many of those hot central parts of Europe too. Let's just zoom in on this chart and I'll show you what I mean. So there's the British Isles, and of course we've got Europe through here as well. Now just take a look at the brown colours. They're indicating where the driest conditions have been, and the yellow colours too. Unsurprisingly, it's across western and northern parts of Portugal, running through Spain, through Germany, through Poland and off into the far western parts of Russia. Also notice how England and Wales have been in those browner colours in some places too, but it's been much wetter than normal across Scotland. So in the UK we've not seen much of this, and certainly across more northern parts we've seen more skies that looked a lot more like this. But if you were lucky enough to be in Europe, then this is how things appeared. And as I hinted earlier, the responsibility for the topsy-turvy weather here in the UK during this summer and the heat across Europe lies with the temperature of the oceans. And again, it's to an anomaly map that we need to turn to give us the clues. This is the sea surface temperature anomalies across the globe as of the 10th of August. Notice the cool area of water here across the northern parts of the Atlantic west of the British Isles. Also notice the warmer area here through central parts of the Atlantic before it turns cooler to the south. Another area of warm water which has been persistent for some time now is off the western coast of the USA. But of most interest is this finger of warm water here. This is the El Niño. And that's responsible for disrupting the usual wind flow through the atmosphere. But also responsible this year is that setup of temperature across the Atlantic Ocean. It's had a knock-on effect into the Mediterranean, and you can see here, look, just how warm the Mediterranean is. The orange colours here are indicating temperatures as much as 4 degrees Celsius above normal for the time of year. And if you've been into the Mediterranean this year, you'll know when you walk in, it's like getting into a hot bath. That's created a huge amount of energy within the Mediterranean, which, although some has already been released in the form of thunderstorms, particularly across parts of Italy and Spain, as well as into central parts of Europe over the next few days, that could have a knock-on effect into the weather through the rest of the autumn and into the winter. There's just such a huge amount of energy here that's waiting to be released. Now, back to those sea surface temperatures. The blue colours, the cold water out towards the west of the UK, encourages low pressure to be centred in here. The warm water across the Mediterranean feeds in off southerly winds around that area of low pressure. When those southerly winds come in, it drags warm air across Europe, which has been responsible for the heat wave there. When that warm air has managed to get across the UK, it's also brought us some warm days here, which is why we saw 37 degrees Celsius during the early part of July. However, the proximity of that low pressure to the west and the tendency for the flow to be in from the south or southwest through western Scotland and western Ireland means that that's where we've seen the wettest of the weather through this summer. But because we've had higher pressure and warmer temperatures generally across many central and eastern parts of Europe, here across central and southern parts of the UK, we've seen warmer, drier south to southeasterly winds, hence the reason for the drier weather there. From time to time, that high pressure to the east has cleared away, the low pressure has moved in close to the UK, and we've seen the jet stream break through, bringing strong westerly winds at high levels in the atmosphere. That's when we saw the cool and wet weather towards the end of July. But as we head into the late part of summer and autumn, these are likely to be the scenes that we'll see more often across Europe. Building cumulus and cumulonimbus thunderclouds, widespread thunderstorms, widespread heavy showers as that energy gets released from the Mediterranean and meets the cooler water coming in from the Atlantic. Will that have implications for the number of severe weather warnings issued during this autumn and winter? Well, it almost certainly will, but that's part of the beauty of the weather that we'll have to wait to find out. But for now, enjoy the rest of the summer weather, whatever it may bring, and thanks for watching, and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.